few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, they arrived from the Netherlands in victory, I would like to say, and were met by myself as well as their parents, their coaches, their coaches' families as well, their families, and I believe the entire St. Martin was able to enjoy and celebrate them. But as Minister of Education, I felt it very important to highlight these young ladies and the good that they have done and the good that they continue to do as role models for this community. So I would like to start first by introducing them. To my far left, I have Hilda Suarez, Candice Ford, and next to me, Tatia Brunings. And then from the far right, I have Manar Mohammed, Ariel Vlon, and next to me, Harsha Parchani. These young ladies were able to represent St. Martin very, very well, and I'll let them make their presentation and give you all the details, because that's what this presentation is about, for you to get to know them individually and hear from them exactly what they experienced in preparation and during their competition. They were guided by coaches from Lexwell, Mr. Willem Nielsen and Mr. Femi Couture, as well as Bas Pilon of RBC and Erica Cannon, a retired lawyer. The program, the entire program and trip was sponsored by Lexwell as well as RBC. So this is a great example of the community, of the business community stepping up to give our young people an opportunity to excel, to also dream big, and also give them the inspiration to continue to dream. So as a Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, I believe they are a shining example of our young people on St. Martin doing good. And we have to take every opportunity to catch them being good, spread a light on them, shine a light on them, so that they can continue to shine that light. Beside me sit 6 aspiring leaders of St. Martin. So I invite you now, starting with Hilda, to bring your presentation to the people of St. Martin.
Basically, what we're going to discuss about is what exactly is a moot court competition, how the team was formed, the effort in order for our performance to be at such a high level, our time in The Hague, and our personal experience, and why should SXM Moot should be continued for the future youth and through years to come. So the first thing is, so basically, I'm going to explain what is a moot court competition. Basically, a moot court or mooting is an oral presentation of a legal issue or problem against an opposing counsel, and it has to be done against, to be brought forward a judge. And basically is always based on a fictional case. So most organizations make their fake country and then make different issues within that case. And it's up to the two opposing counsels, prosecution and defense, to write their arguments and show it before a judge. The judge basically critiques these arguments based on law facts and how those are applied within the scenario inside that case. Mooting is sometimes misled as a mock trial, but mock trials are basically that you're presenting in front of your jury and you're trying to remove the actuality of the evidence. So in this case, we're going against the judges, and we're mostly applying the law. We're not dealing with evidence or with people in that jury or with juries. So basically, that is what a moot court is, and yeah, I'll give it to my next person now.
So I would be discussing what was the competition like on the island, and also I will also talk about my experience a little bit. So the competition on the island was hosted by Lexwell, as you know, and it took place in the Philipsburg court. And the competition was basically a replica of the ICC competition. In this competitions, we were split into teams based on the schools that we attended. I believe 5 schools competed: St. Dominic's, St. Martin Academy, Learning Unlimited, Caribbean International Academy, and Milton Peters College. 2 teams from Milton Peters College. And the overall team that won was St. Dominic's, and the best speaker was Haley Grayo, who unfortunately is not here. We argued basically a case about Joseph Bombi, who ran a place of refuge, actually, for people who were being affected in the camps. According to Mr. Bombi, he was providing an alternative means for people who were faced with hardship of the wars. In this case, we were left to debate whether the camps the government provided, where food was scarce and murders were random, was a better solution to what Mr. Bombi offered. Mr. Bombi did, however, prevent the freedom of movement of the people and paid them next to nothing for their work. In this argument, we argued admissibility and jurisdiction. After the arguments were done, we went to Holland House where we enjoyed some hors d'oeuvres and some family time for those of us who families came. And now for my experience. So I first heard about this competition in school. My class actually nominated me to compete. And it was very interesting because before this, I was actually battling with myself as to whether or not I will become a lawyer. And at the end of this, I decided that I'm really interested in law. and I really like the experience. So therefore, this is not really my part, but this should definitely be carried on and more people should get involved in doing this. Thank you.
So basically, I'm gonna now talk about how the SXM team got formed. So as previously mentioned, St. Dominic won overall. So we were the first elected to go to Holland to compete at the international level. And then the other candidates were chosen based on how they presented themselves individually instead of as a team whole. So after the high school competition, we had like a long pause because as we know, the competition was in January and this was of around May of 2015. So there was a long waiting period. So in September is when we actually got the new case, which we worked on. But our first meeting was in October, where we actually met one another. And then we had an idea who exactly are we gonna meet. After that, it was maybe scarce meetings once a week, once every 2 weeks, because we had to have time to deal with the case. Even though this is a mock of an actual trial, it is still very intensive. There's a lot of hidden details that we have to look for. So it's not something that you can just read the night before and come with a presentation about it the next day. So we needed some time in order to actually learn what we're talking about and have an idea what exactly we're dealing with. As time became shorter and the competition was closer and closer to us, we had to, give up our personal time in order to attend more meetings to prepare ourselves. And we basically practice more on debating skills, on presenting, on making sure that we're able to express ourselves and try to convince the judges whether or not this person deserves to go to jail in an X amount of time, because we have 8 minutes to talk and then 5 minutes to rebuttal. So talking right now, 8 minutes sounds like a lot, but when you're trying to convince somebody, it's not really. And especially when judges are allowed to stop you and ask you as many questions as they like. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not such a good thing.
So first of all, the island, for this competition here on the island, all teams were vigorously involved and I would say put in as much effort as they can. And this is something that cannot be done within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, even though if you try to do so. You need to build some sort of bond with your team, some sort of strength, and in order for you to do that, you have to spend adequate amount of time together. When it came to our team as St. Dominic, we would actually spend Tuesdays after school leading up till all 5 or 6 in the afternoon at Burger King using their Wi-Fi. And we placed in a lot of effort into preparing for the high school in competition here on the island. When it came to our meetings and our training for the international competition that would be held in Holland, it was the same thing, even more hectic. As many may not know, all of us are in our crucial years. We are in our last years for possibly high school or even AP classes or IB. And caused us to find a balance between schoolwork as well as extracurricular activities and as well doing this. This is not a walk in the park. When we came to meetings which were held on Saturdays, early mornings, we looked at facts. Facts are the best thing to look for when you're doing such a case. And after that, we dressed it or window dressed with other cases which were given to us. Case files are called the ICTY case files, the International Criminal Tribunal of Yugoslavia. And those are case files that we use to support facts within our speeches, either defense or prosecution. We had to read at least 10 cases in order to support our documents. And this was done over a period of roughly 5 months. For the rough 5 to 6 months, for the reason we got the case within mid-September, and we were pushing so hard to ensure that our speeches were fully prepared then for January. If you would see right here, this is actually a picture of us in one of our rooms, which we shared, because even then, at the competition, preparation wasn't finished. We usually got questions within our speeches, which we would write down, and then we would go back into, after the competition or plenary, after the trials, we would go back and review what questions were asked and see if we answered them adequate enough or to our satisfaction. And this picture shows exactly that sort of preparation at the competition. Next slide, please. And this is just a picture showing the group work that we did during the periods of September to January, where we did concentrate mostly on our speeches in December. However, the preparation was fully done throughout these months. So as I stated, we focus on facts, and then we try to create arguments for both defense and prosecution for war crimes, crime against humanity, and supposed to be liability. And as well, we use the ICTY case as reasons to support our argument based on whether side we were on. It was a great idea to do both prosecution and defense at a time, because we can argue against each other and find loopholes within each argument, just as a way to make our speeches and facts stronger.
Monday, when we arrived, we had the orientation at Leiden University, where we were basically introduced to the other teams, and we introduced ourselves and our island. Nobody knew what St. Martin was, except now they knew that it's the island where you can touch the plates. At lunch, after lunch, we had a tour of the city of The Hague, where we basically got to see historical sites and cultural landmarks. The structure of the competition: each team has a prosecution, which contains 3 members, as well as a defense counsel, which contains 3 members, which each have 8 minutes to speak and 2 minutes to prepare a rebuttal and 5 minutes to give their rebuttal. 2 countries competed in a trial, one acting as the prosecution and one acting as the defense. Next row. This is an example of our defense counsel and our prosecution counsel. Next. The judges were composed of either law students at Leiden, lawyers, and court judges. Some of them were very high officials. For example, we had to speak in front of a former Supreme Court judge for the state of New York. And also, we spoke in front of an ICC tribunal judge, which actually presided over one of the case files that we had to use in our case.
Wow.
Next. This is an example of the prosecution speaking in one of these trials. The case basically was the Office of the Prosecution against Eric Maxwell, in which Eric Maxwell was being charged with aiding and abetting in war crimes and crimes against humanity in the fictional country of Czechoslovakia. The war crime was basically during the Civil War, a church was bombed, and therefore, since churches are neutral objects, he was being charged for aiding and abetting in the destruction of this church. And also, he was charged for aiding and abetting in crimes against humanity of forcible transfer of the population of Green Valley, which is wrong for the most part. The country was basically experiencing a civil war in which the government was fighting against this rebel group called the Eagles. And so each speaker had to address one of the issues. I was war crimes, Ariel was crimes against humanity, and Tatia was motive liability for defense. And then Manar was motive liability for prosecution, Candace was war crimes, and Hilda was crimes against humanity. Next. From Tuesday to Thursday, that's when all the trials were conducted, alternating between prosecution and defense. We competed against Russia, Germany, Venezuela, Argentina, New York Team 1, Romania, Bulgaria, and New York Team 2. For each judge, each trial that we had and each judge we spoke in front of loved our team at the end of the day, especially the Davises. They're like our favorite judges. Like, we definitely made a very big impression. In the beginning, everybody didn't know who we were, but by the end of the competition, everybody was afraid to speak against us. Next. This is an example of Ariel impressing Mr. Davis. Wednesday evening, we had a reception at the public library where we met with various St. Martin dignitaries as well as the deputy mayor of The Hague. Thursday evening, we took a train to the north where we met at La Galleria, where we found out which two teams would be speaking at the Peace Palace. At that evening, South Africa and New York Team 2 were chosen to speak in the Peace Palace. And then that evening, our team bonded with some of the other teams, like the team from Romania. This is an example of us at the mayor reception at the public library. On Friday, each team was bused to the Peace Palace, and then after which we sat through the trial, which South Africa acted as the defense and New York Team 2 acted as the prosecution. The trial was judged by 2 ICC court judges and 2 tribunal judges, after which we had lunch, and then South Africa was deemed the victorious team, and then after which we had a photo op outside in front of the Peace Palace. And then that night we had a party hosted by Layden where we got to interact with all the other teams and, you know, make friends and everything. Despite not winning in our hearts, we know we were awesome. And without a doubt, they will never forget Team St. Martin, that's for sure. And I pass it on.
Anywho, okay, so basically I'm gonna start with how did we start out. So we didn't all know each other. It wasn't like, I mean, most of us knew about each other, but we didn't know each other personally. I mean, all of us knew about Harsha, for example, being the editor of Teen Times and modeling and all those other stuff she does. Yeah, I guess I knew Candace because I used to attend St. Martin Academy and so forth, but we all kind of knew each other, but not really. So our first meeting with each other, and we had Willem Nielsen, our coach, over there, and we all introduced ourselves, and we said our ages, and we said a little bit about ourselves, like our hobbies and whatever, and we asked each other questions. And for example, the first question that Ariel got was, who does her eyebrows? And yeah, that was the first question that she got, because we were all looking at her wonderfully done eyebrows. And so, yeah, we asked Willem how old he is, which I'm not going to reveal for his sake. So we got to know each other, and we joked around with each other, and so much so that we're kind of a little bit too close now. And yeah, but that's all right. And we became friends and basically a family to the point where, I mean, when we were up in Holland, we started calling Willem our dad, and his wife, Erica, our mom, and Bass was Uncle Bass, and Famey was Uncle Famey, and it came to the point where the other teams would be like, that's your dad? You're like, oh, no, we're just joking. But that's how close we became. We basically became a family. And, yeah, I basically covered the progression of our relationships. Friendship is important, and or even the importance of trust and having tolerance on your team. Reason being that if you, first of all, we're all young. We cannot pretend as if that we're able to separate our personal feelings from our professional feelings. So if we don't get along, or we don't have proper chemistry, or we don't have some sort of built-up relationship, then it will affect how our team will perform. Our team wasn't all rainbows and sunshine and unicorns from the beginning, you know? We had the dark rainbows and the dark sunshine and everything like that. We had the night or whatever, you know? We had our little issues, but in the end, I believe that we resolved them in the most peaceful way possible. And I'm not saying that we all had to be the bestest buddies and from down the hood or whatever other terms people have, but we had to solve our issues and be tolerant of each other and tolerant of each other's personalities in order for us to be the strong team that we were. And one thing that I can say for sure that other teams noticed about us is how jovial we were, how fun we were, but how we knew when it was time to be serious. And I think that is a perfect example of Caribbean people in general. We know how to have fun, but we also know how to get work done. And I guess that's about it. Next slide. That's a beautiful picture of us taking a selfie in front of the Peace Palace. I was the one holding the camera, that's why I'm in front. It was really hard. And we're also being photobombed by 2 Mongolian girls in the back. Next picture. Next slide. On to experiences, since I'm already up, I'm gonna go first. I am really, really thankful to Lexwell and all the other sponsors, and of course, more specifically, our coaches, because this was not just our coaches for the international competition, but also our coaches for the competition before, such as Roy Moose, Cor Merckx, and I don't know the others' coaches. Yana? Yeah, Yana, Bass's wife. Anywho, other than that, it was a great experience, and it's something that we will all, I'm sure, remember for the rest of our lives, and I'm extremely happy that I decided to do this. Before starting Moot Court, I wanted to be a psychologist. Now I want to be a lawyer. That just goes to show you how much of an impact the competition has on students and how important it is, because, one thing that we all have to notice about St. Martin is that a vast majority of our lawyers aren't actually from St. Martin. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the reasons as to why this competition was starting. Willem is nodding his head at me, so I was right. But yeah, so it was a really great experience, and I had a lot of fun meeting all the different countries and experiencing their cultures. For example, being from St. Martin, we would greet, when you see somebody, you automatically say, oh, good morning, or whatever. But like a lot of the European teams would be like, oh, good morning, because it's weird to them. But then the South African team would be like, good morning, it just showed you similarities and differences that we had in our cultures and how we did things. And it was also wonderful to see the countries who English isn't their first language, and for some of them it's their third language, but they were really great speakers and they tried their best, and it gave us all, I think, a world view.
And just this experience because I was prosecution, I was basically dealing that the crime that the accused was that he forced people to move from their homes because he donated the military. These people were pushed out of their homes, they were left homeless, and nobody was helping them. And just the fact that we had to deal with so many cases that deal with this in real life scenarios, it makes you step back and want to say, okay, I want to do something about this. I want to change. We all want the world to be a better place, but nobody does the job behind it. I want to do that job. And this is a little bit too tall. Okay. And just having the opportunity to do that, because I already had that in my mind. I love what UNICEF and the United Nations are all about. So just I had that in my mind, but it was just a dream. And now having this opportunity and seeing that this dream can be a reality. And I'm just one person, but I know that hundreds of other people have that similar dream, because if not, the United Nations wouldn't have been formed. So just this experience was amazing. Talking to other people from other countries, seeing their perspectives is amazing. The culture clash in a good sense, that we saw the different cultures, how they approach things, how they just bring themselves across. This opportunity was amazing across the world, and there's nothing to compensate this. There's nothing that I can say, yeah, what if I do this? It's almost the same thing. No. This is a unique and awesome experience that anybody, if they have the opportunity, should do it. Meeting other people was fun, but just the fact that we got that life experience, and that most of us now are straying more to the law field because of this, there's no word to describe it, actually. I've been rambling that about for a while, but there's no words to describe this.
Honestly, as maybe the majority will say, but what has been said already, there's no word to describe the amount of feeling of gratitude, appreciation that I have for my mentors, coaches, those people who put so much effort behind making the competition, making the case, the amount of effort. I'm thankful to have my team. My experience was wonderful. I actually had the idea of going into the law field, but as you get older and you're going in high school, you're not certain of anything. However, doing this competition just made a great certainty for me, and that's why I have applied to universities in Holland to further my study in law after I'm finished with IB. This experience is an experience I would want for more students after me to have, where they're able to actually experience something, even if they contemplate going into the law field. This is something they can do. One of the best feelings I have gotten is when you have up the pictures or you're publicizing on Facebook, to just know what your community, and to ensure that your community is aware of what you're doing and how it's going up in the competition. How students would come to me and be like, are you getting training? This is something I would love to do, or this is something I would hope to do in the future. My experience, hands down, is one of the greatest. I enjoyed meeting other cultures, and even though we're separated by large bodies of water, at the end of the day, you still realize we're all teenagers. We all hope to dream. We all want to be successful. We all want to know our purpose in life. We all want to, just go out there and be happy. And this, I find, was one of the many competitions that gives you an international feel. And as well, you experience Dutch culture when you're up there. I mean, we explored the first day when we arrived, when we were waiting. We walked through The Hague. It was cold. Yes, I enjoyed the cold very much. Can't wait to get back there. However, it was just the feeling of something different than St. Martin. However, we have so much similarities because we're all humans.
I'm honestly, my co-delegates before me, extremely grateful to our mentors and for Laxwell for giving us this opportunity, because it really is once in a lifetime. I mean, how many people get to say they get to speak in front of ICC court judges? Like, these people judge really, really bad people, and we get the chance to speak in front of them and actually hear their opinion about how we are as people. It's amazing. I am so grateful because I definitely got to reconnect with my childhood BFF from since I was like that big, Ariel Vaughn, and make new friends with like Tatia and Manar and Candace and Hilda. I mean, our defense squad was so tight. We even have an anthem before every trial that we presided over just to calm our nerves and everything. I definitely think that any teen should, no matter what school you go to or where you come from, should definitely try and participate in this, because it really is an amazing experience. Like, it's probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. It definitely makes you want to go into law because it's so much fun. You bond, and you really believe your case, and you really want to fight for your client, so to speak, even if he's guilty or not. I mean, we really became a family. Like, it really came to a point where it's like we were just so close and everything. Even to this day, I mean, we're still a family, even though we don't go to the same schools, even though we didn't all like each other in the beginning. We were all like a group, and I guess it showed, especially with the other teams, and the bonds that we made with the other teams were definitely bonds that will last forever. I mean, how many people can say that, oh, I have a friend in Mongolia, or like I have a friend in Romania, or South Africa for that matter. I mean, it's such a great experience. You get to meet amazing people who are brilliant just like you.
And from my experience going to Holland, first of all, it was my first time away from my family. And secondly, but I got a family away from home anyway. And secondly, it was my first time in winter. So that was quite an interesting experience, because whenever we would go to practices at Lexwell, I'd always be complaining that their air condition was too cold. Like, the minute they put on the air condition, I always knew the air condition was on. So it was quite interesting. I was kind of scared of how cold it might have been. But for the competition, like, I was really, really, really excited and nervous, and there was a lot of mixed feelings in that respect, and it was a lot of hard work put into getting us at this point. And then when we got there, we were just like a gun filled with bullets ready to blow. We were just, getting our opponents. We had this slogan. Every time we would go up, we would drop the mic. Because we were so awesome. Oh my gosh. But that's just how close we really became. We would just have like random inside jokes to share with each other. It was just such a different experience. It was such a close bond. I have never been so close with so many people at the same time, and to enjoy each other's company for a whole week and not get tired of each other was such a special thing. With the other teams, like meeting them and so forth, it was very interesting because, as previously mentioned, like we all share different cultures, we all have different ways of life, and it was surprising to see how much things you have in common or different from other people. And what I think is really important about international competitions is that you also get to meet people from other cultures, and you also get to share your culture and your island with other people. So whenever in the future, whenever you go to one of these countries, you can always be like, oh, I've met someone from this country that I have never met an Irish person before, or I never met a Polish person before, or I never met someone from South Africa, which is for me, it was very interesting. And one of the things that we had to do when we were over there is that we had to sit with people who were born in our same month, which was quite interesting, actually, because I sat with a few people from Russia and South Africa, and we were just talking about random things like what our countries have in common from what our countries don't have in common. And it was surprising, actually, to see how you can find so much in common with these people. And now I will pass the mic on to Ariel.
Hello, I'm Ariel Blonde, and I just want to draw a line to show you guys really how it actually is. I'm known to be the, very serious, and they make fun of me for being the serious one. And they're all talking about, how much fun we had during this experience, which is true. It was amazing. But don't be fooled. This organization takes your blood, sweat, and tears. You have to put all your time, all your dedication, be able to time manage yourself with school, your social life, and this whole organization. And it takes a lot, especially from us teenagers. So it's a lot of work, and it really develops a lot of skills that's necessary to be successful in the future. And I am just, once again, so grateful to have this opportunity, and I hope a lot of St. Martin youth will decide, you know what, I will push myself and I will do it. And it will be the most dedicated students of St. Martin, and I know we can win, because to do an organization like this, it takes a lot from each of us individually, so we will have the best put forward. I am from Caribbean International Academy. My name is Ariel Blonde, and Moot Court must continue in the future. It's just a must. For us teenagers, especially me personally, a little bit about my experience, the biggest weight that us teenagers carry on our shoulders is the fact that now is the time for us to make our life decisions, our important decisions. We have to make sure we take all the right courses in high school to ensure that we can get into the faculty of what we want to do in the future. And in your teenage years, we all struggle with the fact that we're trying to find self-realization and find ourselves and know what we want to do in the future. And this organization really, really helped me. My entire life, even since I was 4 years old, as the minister had spoke about me at the finalized point in our national round, everyone kept telling me, you have to be a lawyer, you have to study law, please pursue law. And when it became time for me to decide, I was at the point where I thought, this is what everyone else wants for me, not what I want for myself. And when I heard about the Moot Court competition, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to run. I'm going to take this challenge because it's the perfect opportunity for me to see if I do want to pursue law. And I found that in our trials, I felt at home. It was super exciting, as everyone said, but when they say exciting, it's being tormented with questions in the courtroom. And this is what the 6 of us find exciting, which is pretty crazy. So it really helped me with my self-realization, and I realized, you know what? everyone recognizes this in me, and now I recognize it in myself, and I know this is what I actually want to do. And for St. Martin to be able to provide our youth with a chance to realize what they want to do, whether it's public speaking, which you experienced during this, or, you know, just being able to participate in pretending and being a part of the workforce. Us teenagers, we find ourselves asking ourselves, what are we doing this for? What are we in school for? What are we going to get to? We don't know what it's like. And we find on the island that St. Martiners, you know, a lot of us decide, you know what, we're just going to stay here and try and find a job after high school. And this organization gives us a chance to travel abroad and be able to see what it's like for universities. And it encourages our youth to stay in school, graduate, and move forward and be able to, you know, possibly come back to St. Martin and work and help out St. Martin. Next slide. Okay. We really put St. Martin on the map. As my colleague said, when we started out, we were participating against 12 different countries and 16 different teams, and none of them knew where St. Martin was prior. And then we left, and everyone knew our names, even after the first two trials that we did. They knew where St. Martin was. You know, they knew, oh, you can touch the planes. We even put a little sticky note on the map so they knew where we were at. And it really gives St. Martin a chance to show our high level of professionality and our high education system. Because out of all these 16 different teams and 12 different countries, St. Martin really was recognized. And we placed third out of so many of those. So it just shows, you know, our high education level. And it really, you know, what also we believe is, you know, we have this island mentality. We're very close to one another. And we created this sort of bond. And we feel like this really gave us our advantage, and this is why we worked so well. And based on all the experience we have now and the knowledge from the Moot Court, we know that we can train St. Martiners and we can win this competition in future to come. So help us put St. Martin out there. We definitely need to continue this.
I'd like to thank everybody who made this possible, my fellow coaches, the teammates, of course, and our wonderful sponsors. Without them, this really wouldn't be possible. This experience was amazing. I think these girls definitely showed what we try to achieve with this, and that is to make sure that more lawyers, more judges, more law-related professionals on this island are from this island and not just imported from Holland, like myself. To make sure that we're able to do this in the future, I'd like to call on everybody in St. Maarten to give their support, to pledge their assistance for this program going forward. We're a not-for-profit organization and we need your help. Same goes to government, of course. Thank you very much.
What I would like to share with the general public is that the reviews that I heard from the very first case they presented out of the Netherlands was outstanding. I'm sure most of us heard it. But upon their return, I actually heard that hands down every team expected them to win. So whether it was based on a technicality or it came down to a subjective judgment call, these girls have all reason to be quite confident and brag about their performance because of the skills that they displayed in the Netherlands. I think it was important to highlight them here right at home. I mean, it would have been really nice to have had a video of one of the sessions to add to this as well, and maybe if you have it, we can do it, but at least for the next time, you make sure you have someone with a good camera. Because this is very, very important. We have so much that is being said negatively about our youth, and this was not an initiative of government, so I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I think that if we take every opportunity to highlight the youth that are doing good, it's an encouragement to others and an inspiration to others. They have inspired their their fellow youth to get involved in something like this. I would like to add my words of encouragement to them, but get involved in any extracurricular activity actually that you are passionate about. And though government did not sponsor it, I'm sure the next time around, seeing the great success, that we will find some way within our budget to also contribute.